focus of this entire conversation is about the beauty and the unexpected, because here we are.
Yes, here we are, walking through the unexpected in many ways.
Right? Well, welcome. Thank you for being here with me today with HeartStories. So this is Stephanie Hanrahan, and she is the founder of Tinkles Her Pants. And I would love to give you your full introduction, but I want to let you tell it. I want to hear your whole story.
Oh goodness. Okay, well, it's quite the story, so I'll kind of just give the skimmed down version. I might break Instagram if I do the whole thing, but
no.
So I kind of got thrown into the world of speaking and writing in a very unorthodox way. A little over a year ago, I decided to make my private journal public, and my story went viral. And so the reason I did that is because, like so many, I was living under the perception that the world only wanted my prettiest parts. They did not want to see my cracks. And so I was committed to hiding my hardships and only posting my highlight reel. But by doing that, I felt incredibly alone, incredibly isolated, because my life has been very unexpected. And I didn't know anybody walking through the same pain, so I just considered it mine, and I isolated myself in that. So one day I happened to post our family photos, and somebody well-intendedly called my family perfect. They said, "You just are so beautiful, and your kids are so cute, and you have the perfect family." And that word perfection just gutted me, because I'm like, no, I want to show you who I really am. You're only seeing half or maybe less of who I am.
Right.
So I made my private journal public, and I now I was just hoping for one person who could say me too. And to my surprise, there's been thousands and thousands of women who have resonated with the message of overcoming and redemption and hope. And so now I get to speak and write and live freely. So it's pretty incredible.
Amazing. What were you doing before? So you had this thing that happened, or the series of things, and that you decided to make that private journal public. But what were you doing before?
Professionally, yeah.
Because you're a writer and speaker.
Yeah. Yes. So I've always enjoyed writing, but I put myself through school and really wanted career stability. So I was a labor and delivery nurse. I was in a totally different world. And then I was staying home with my two kids. I have a daughter, Campbell, and a son, Eli. And so now here I am.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. How old are your kids?
Campbell is 5. She's in kindergarten. And then Eli is 3.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So they're both so young. And then part of your story that we'll dive into is that they're both on the autism scale, and you're home right now, like reality of the unexpected, right? They're both typically in some form of school. So right now you're home with them working and doing teaching and teaching that you weren't prepared for.
Correct.
Yes. So obviously what it's like is hard, I'm sure, but tell us more about where you're finding yourself right now. Because I feel like I've watched, and your daughter broke her thumb in the middle, and you had to go to the hospital for a surgery.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So talk about that, where you are right now.
Well, right now I'm hiding in a closed room. Physically hiding.
Legitimately right now you're hiding.
Yes. But yeah, so we're no strangers to the unexpected. Like you said, my daughter, actually I'll just for context share this. I don't know if anybody's ever had really one of those banner years that really sticks out, but mine was the summer of 2016. Campbell was 2, my son was 6 weeks old, and I just thought life is complete. I have the perfect family. Our family's complete.
You have the perfect picture,
just throw up that white picket fence, we're good. And my husband, who was 31 at the time, former athlete, epitome of physical health, was getting out of bed, and he hit the floor. And I woke, the baby was at the bedside, and he was screaming, and I rushed to my husband, and he was conscious but disoriented. And what we later found out after leaving the home and not returning for 3 weeks was that my husband has a really, really rare heart condition, and he had flatlined that day. And the only reason he is still with us and that I'm not a widow is because on his way down, he hit our nightstand and broke his back. And so that jolt restarted his heart. So
Oh my
he
gosh.
would have fallen gracefully to the carpet, I would be a widow right now. So
Oh my word.
I like to share that, especially that part, because, you know, it was already enough pain for us to be learning our way through heart disease. But then because of a broken back, Sean was learning to walk again, and I had to help bathe him and feed him on top of myself just recovering from a C-section.
Right.
And so I got some street cred on the unexpected. So we are no stranger to that. And that was the same summer that I started noticing my daughter showing some signs of autism, and within a year, my son as well. So it was a complete demolition and rebuild of my faith and family in a very, very small period of time. So
okay,
right now,
hold on.
yes,
Wait, we have too many questions to go on to right now. We'll come back to right now.
yes.
Okay, so I remember reading. First of all, I never had read about the back-breaking, heart-starting part. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, that's just like when you know that there's like reason and purpose that things will be used. You're like, okay, well, that's not a coincidence. And then the your daughter. So you found out about your daughter, and then I remember I read something that you wrote about that you had this in between of like, at least I'm going to have one child who doesn't have these struggles, and then to start seeing it, or I don't remember, like, tell that story, because I felt like that part was like the you have got to be kidding me moment.
Oh yeah.
Like,
right.
No way, this is really happening. And I whatever you wrote about that, I was like, oh, I'm feeling that, and I don't have what you have, but I felt every moment of that journey with you.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's, you know, I think all women and mothers can probably relate to the idea, especially right now during Corona, that we have this idea in our head of what things are going to look like.
Yes.
Right? We have a plan for our future. We have a plan for our family. And autism was not in my outline for my family, right? I mean, and so when Campbell was diagnosed, I had to go through a deep stage of grieving the loss of what I had in my head, of grieving expectations is really what it is. And it was, I'm pretty honest about that and talk pretty openly about it, because she was the same child. I was the one that was being called to change, right? And so I had to redefine what beauty looked like. I had to redefine what mothering looked like. And just when I got my bearings with her, you know, my son started showing signs. So it was another process of letting go of what that looked like, what their relationship would be, what my experience would be as a mother. But this is the thing that I've learned, and it sounds like I'm just, you know, hurrah right now and everything's positive. It was a long journey to get here.
Yeah.
And I will say that there is a lot of beauty in plan B, but you have to train your eye to look for it. So my experience is different than I expected, but as soon as you can trade that expectation for appreciation, this like incredibly rich life awaits. So
that's so good. That's so good. So I think that's just what I appreciate about your writing too, is that it is I don't feel like you always give any kind of like fixes or resolutions or try this and everything will be fine. Like, it's very much real. Your stories are all so real, but in like, there's beauty to be found, but you have to look for it. That's train your eye. I love that. Like, train your eye to what you're looking for. It's going to look different than what you expected. Oh my gosh. And it's just so God, I have so many questions. But I want to say right here, I want to like introduce the fact that you are our HeartStories copywriter.
Yes.
And I am just like honored and flabbergasted about that, because I feel like I read your writing and I think I want to be like Stephanie. Like I want everything laid out there, but in this very wise care. It's not like the rubbernecking that happens at an accident is you're like, oh my God, and you're like so disconnected from it, and you don't, it's them over there. I feel like the way that you write is like, some of it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened to her, but it's in a very caring, nurturing, like, I'm only telling you this because I want to help you through this. It's not like you're, you know, doing it for the shock factor or to, you know, clickbait, or, you know, that's not the reason you're sharing it to nurture and care for people. And so when you showed up in my life, and then we had that one conversation that day, and you were able and willing to help us with writing our copy at HeartStories, I was like, oh my gosh, please. I would have never trusted anyone more to just hand over my baby and say all the things, like trust your wisdom.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that I will say, because I think this is so important for anybody walking through pain and difficulty right now, that I didn't share. I kept all of the things that I just mentioned to you and more, my history with like mental health and abuse and that kind of thing. I kept it all quiet up until last year, right? And so even when the things were happening with my husband and my kids, unless you were in my really small inner circle, I wasn't sharing those things. And I think if I would have just hopped on Facebook and said, I found my husband on the floor and my daughter's being diagnosed, it would have felt more like a call for help than using my story to help people later on, right? Because when we speak from like these big open gushing wounds, people's, can have the tendency to go, oh, like you said, the rubbernecking, oh, that's so painful. Like I want to help her, but it's so hard. Versus once your wounds and your stories have scarred over a little bit, you can have perspective. And that's when instead of hurting you, it helps others. And so I think that's kind of where it's resonated more, is that, nothing about my circumstances have changed. My husband still has a bad heart. My kids will always have autism. I am who I am, but my perspective has changed. Right. And that is the gift. And so now I'm like, how can I talk and help and teach and learn from other people going through the same? Because the incredible part about all this is when I opened the blog, I just wanted that one woman that was like, me too. And what I've learned is there's so many out there, and your voice just clears the way for the next one to share. So it's really an honor to be able to hear from women who may not have the same exact circumstances, but feelings are so universal, right? Like you said, like you don't have a child in the same position, but you feel the same as I am. So that's always been my target with the writing.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. So I have another question about that, is that when you say your perspective changed, like I need to know what that journey was like, because I feel like in my own life, in certain circumstances, and for everyone watching, like these difficult, horrible things happen, and you say it's been a year ago, like that was so long ago. To me, that feels like yesterday compared to some trauma that's happened in our family that I'm thinking 1 year later was not a scarred over wound.
Well, 1 year since I started sharing. It's been 3 years since, 3 years since the scar.
So that's true. But still, I feel like what was the shift that you were like, okay, now I see this differently. I'm not going to only be hurting. I'm able to share the healing. Like what helped you to get that perspective shift, and how do you keep it?
I would say, so unknowingly, and if you scroll back to my Instagram, you'll see, the day my daughter was diagnosed, I came home, put her down for a nap, and ran into my bedroom and bawled my eyes out and screamed and cried into a pillow. And then I grabbed my phone and opened a private Instagram. And when it was that day, the very first post is her diagnosis day. And told no one about it, not even my husband. I didn't want followers. I didn't want my friends to see it. I just needed a space to journal. And I figured, well, always got my phone. I've always got Instagram. I'll just use this. And so for a year and a half, I used that. I was living this like online duplicitous life, posting my pretty and concealing my cracks. But I was writing to myself. I was using that space as a journal. And that little tiny bit of releasing truth is what made me 2 years later, be able to open it up to the world. Because I was opening up myself, if that makes sense, just to myself. I was an audience of one, but it was practice. It was practice in being real and vulnerable. No one needed to see it. And so that's a huge platform for me right now. If anyone's watching, especially with all the additional pain on top of our circumstances with Corona and self-isolation, is that have a space where you are authentically 100% seen, even by yourself. And so there was no lightning bolt moment for me. There was no moment I was like, and now I'm just so thrilled about this. It was like slow practice at being like, you're still alive, you're still living, and you have survived. And so it just started to lighten. And then also finding a virtual village of people who understand is really important. So,
how did you find that? Who's your virtual village, and how did you find them?
Well, a lot of it at the time was about special for special needs moms, because
Sure.
I'm like, all of my friends were so well intended, but they didn't understand. No one could understand unless you were living it. And I always say, find your I get it people instead of the people that can say, I can't imagine. And the can't imagine ones are so, so well intended. But how many times do we say, I can't imagine what you're going through? I can't imagine what you're experiencing. You need to find the people that can just look at you and go, I get it. And that's all they have to say.
Yeah.
I get it. And so I just scoured the internet for whoever I could find. And now I'm lucky enough to have HeartStories and to have my own community of women. And, you know, it's just, that is the silver lining for me.
Yeah. So tell me, okay, so I'm so curious. I have, my husband's a therapist, so I feel like and I was a psych major in college, but I don't have the answer to this question still. So if I am, and I can't imagine what you're going through, friend, and I can't say I get it because I've never been there. What's better to say? Like, I'm with you. I think the things that I know to say, if you were my friend and 3 years ago when all of this was going down, is like, oh my gosh, I don't get it, but I'm here and we're gonna do it together.
Yes.
Like, what else can I say? Like, what else? Because I'm also a huge component of showing up and fumbling through the words, even if they're wrong.
Yeah.
I want them to be right as much as possible.
Yes.
So.
Okay. I love that you asked that, because here's what worked for me. I can't speak for the masses, but you literally physically show up for people. You sit with them and just go, I am here. I'm here. And so there's also things that I think are, you know, how many times do we always say to the person that is grieving or hurting, or even to someone who's had a new baby, we go, let me know if you need anything, right? And we say it so well intendedly, but guess what? That person is probably not going to let you know, right? They're going to say, oh, I got it. It's okay. Especially if they're grieving. That puts that responsibility back on the person who's already hurting. So I will say the best things that people could do weren't even with their words. It was me going out to check the mail and seeing that there was a cup of coffee on my doorstep. And nobody even bothered to ring the bell. They just set it there with a note, and I found it. And it was those moments within the hardship that really made an incredible difference on my perspective. It's physically, tangibly showing up for people without being asked. There's a really beautiful book called Option B by Sheryl Sandberg.
Yes.
She lost her husband. She's the COO of Facebook. She lost her husband to a heart attack suddenly. And she says in that book, there's this example of a different family who was in a hospital. Their child was dying of cancer. And her friend texted her and said, I'm downstairs with a bag of burgers and a hug. I'll be here for 20 minutes. Whether you want to show up or not, the burgers will be at the front desk. And she recalls that as such a vivid example of showing up for people, because didn't ask. Who cares if the woman doesn't even like burgers? You did something to acknowledge her and her pain. So I'm big on that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I love that. I think, and that right now, I feel like leads into some of the other questions that I had, and we won't, go on forever here. But in this moment, this current present moment, when we can't physically show up, we can drop things off. So that's good. We can say, I left this on your porch. But what does showing up look like right now? Like, how can someone show up for you right now?
So I would say showing up virtually. So the text, the call, the Zoom, meeting with your friends, the HeartStories events, making physical from a distance togetherness.
Eye contact.
It is really tempting to just go into hermit mode when you're not able to leave. And psychologically, I have said this since the beginning of Corona, I'm more worried sometimes about the psychological impact this is having on people than even the physical one. That's just as scary. You can send a virtual gift card. I sent one to my friend the other day for Starbucks. Starbucks is still open. So she can drive through and get a coffee. My girlfriend has a 4-year-old daughter who's at home, and she was worried about her, not getting her pre-K year before kindergarten. And so I sent an Amazon delivery to her for just a little sight word game. So that is showing up, even though it's not physically.
Yeah.
So just paying attention to people. She didn't tell me her daughter was struggling, but I saw it on an Instagram video, and I got on Amazon and ordered that for her. So
So
doing it
good.
that way, yeah, just paying attention, being awake enough to
Yeah.
see the people around you.
That's so good. I think that once you've been through, I mean, we've all been through stuff, right? But I think when you've been through some significant things like you, it makes you such a strong advocate for showing up for people. And it's just, I love it. I love it. I love who you are. Okay, so tell me this. Like, I know that even though you are, comfortable in the unexpected and you've done this before, there have to be still in your mind, and especially you've talked about dealing with anxiety. You talk about that openly on your blog. That's like, the worry about what happens. Like, what are you currently doing with that? Like the fear that creeps into your mind. What's your next step?
So I think for someone with like open diagnosed anxiety and a whole lot of hardships, I'm surprisingly a little bit feel more resilient than I thought I would during all this. And I think it's, again, going back to having a lot of practice.
Yeah.
But I will tell you some tangible things that I'm doing. I am getting up every day and making my bed.
I saw you said that somewhere. I was like, really? She's making her bed every day? That's
every
amazing.
day. I don't know why I'm not a bed maker, people, but it gives me, here's what it is. You control the things you can, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
So I make my bed. Part of my like quarantine essentials were some really nice candles. I light one every day. I bought new loungewear off Target.
Yes.
And so I am finding the tiny things that I can control. I'm setting schedules for myself. At 9:30, I do, my Peloton workout, and then at this time I do with the kids. And so I have found just having as much control over the things we can is going to get us through. And then also getting off social media, not reading as much, as I should, of that, reading actual text. And so trying again to preserve my mental health in any way that I can.
Yeah, it's so good. That's so good. Being that bottom line, controlling what you can control. Those are all everything you listed, things that you can control. So tell me, what is bringing you two different things? Choose one. What's bringing you joy or hope right now?
Those little things I mentioned are bringing me touches of joy. What's bringing me hope is that seeing people still show up for each other, that this has not, social distancing doesn't mean social disconnect. I say that all the time. And so I have felt honestly connected to some people that I haven't in real life been connected to in a while.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm watching humanity, watching the healthcare workers, watching food banks, watching the teachers. We had a teachers parade when this all started because the kids can't go back to school. And I was in tears because schools may be closed, but the educators are still showing up. And so those kind of things give me hope because perspective is just as contagious as a virus. And so it's just looking for the little joys. They are not going to be the same joys that we have in normal life. This is a totally unprecedented time.
Right.
But again, I think I'm awake now. I'm awake because of everything I've walked through. And so I can pick out a story in every day. A good story.
That's so good. Thank you for that. I think that's everything. Being awake and looking the different perspective and what you're looking for.
Well, and I also piggyback on that and say, this has really helped. Try not to use what I call forever statements. So this helps my mental health, right? So it is so okay to say, this sucks, or this is hard, or I'm in pain. But tag on to the end of that sentence, I'm in pain right now. I am hurting today. I am concerned in this moment, right? Because it does something to the shift of your brain chemistry where it's like, this isn't forever. This is just right now.
Right. Oh my gosh, you're so good at that too. I know that in real life. I feel like you live that there's so much. When I talk about your wisdom and your grace and strength, I feel like you really Like, I didn't know you before, but man, you are a big sister in every way. Like, so wise and caring and loving and working for the best in others. I'm so grateful for you.
That's how I'm learning to receive when people say thank you. I'm just going to say thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well deserved. Okay. So tell us where can people find you and follow you and get more of Stephanie in their lives?
Yeah, so my blog is called Tinkles Her Pants. You know, when I started that, I never really thought, I thought this was going to be like 5 friends and family read this. So it's really funny to now go on like CNN and be like, oh, here's Stephanie from Tinkles Her Pants, right? So, but the reason it's named that is because I live for those moments that make you laugh so hard you leak a little, but that's not always real life, right? Real life is hard, and real life can wreck you, and real life deserves to be done with real people. So that is why it's called Tinkles Her Pants. And it's the same on Facebook and Instagram and tinklesherpants.com. And yeah, just there I will be telling my truth.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for being there telling your truth. I'm so grateful. Forever grateful.
Yeah, same.
Okay, well, I want to try. Let me see, because I don't know if I can. Hold on. Oh, I was going to see if I could swipe comments, and I wanted to take a picture. Hold on. So get your face in there. Let's see if we can take a picture. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I don't know if it'll work, but we'll see. Okay, thank you so much for coming. We'll get it edited and put on IGTV and on Facebook in our Sisters on Your Sofa series. So we'll get it in all the places in just a moment. Thank you, girl. Mwah.
Love chatting with you.
Your day. Like
Bye.
Bye, girl.